Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. This is your host, the Barkeep, bringing you podcast 59 here at the tavern, presented by Hirotaku.com. Well, as everybody knows, big announcement dropped this morning from Saban Brands via USA Today. And today I am lucky enough to discuss this subject not only with my good buddy Raptor. Raptor, how you doing?
I'm all hyped up on caffeine and ready to go.
All right, I should not have given you that Mountain Dew, But we also have a third co-host, or second guest, however you want to go ahead and do that, and Raptor's friend and my new friend, D-Jedi.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, now, D-Jedi, you are a big Power Ranger fan, too, and you met Raptor here in college and all that, so you are a big Power Ranger fan, right?
Yeah, Power Rangers actually got me into Taekwondo, which is martial art that I unfortunately kind of had a time skip it, but recently got back into it, and Taekwondo is actually a lot of athletes in Taekwondo. Like, there's an Olympic athlete who was influenced by Power Rangers, and I think that really inspires a lot. I mean, when that came out, dojos, but yeah, that's my connection to it.
If it means anything, I'm in Taekwondo this semester.
Oh, so, right on.
Really hard, though.
I can show you some stuff, but that's later.
Yes. But basically, here's the announcement that happened, and here's why we're going to discuss it and what's really important about it. As of this morning, USA Today let out from Saban Brands that next season, after Super Mega Force is finished, the next season will be Power Rangers Dino Charge. Essentially meaning that the next Power Rangers series will be based off Kyu-Ryuger, and that's where we are. That's basically what the announcement is. So I want to kind of go around the group here and just kind of ask you guys what you think about the announcement and what does this mean from just the very little we have going out. And D-Jedi, we're going to go ahead and start with you since this is your first time. Right. What does this announcement mean to you when you first heard it?
When I first got the word of Dino Charge this morning, I was... Well, first off, the title catch me because it actually is better because they're not using super anymore and they're not kind of like making it seem childish like all the Power Rangers have appeared. Yes, I saw that.
Well, supposedly it's not super yet.
Supposedly, yes. Yeah. There always could be the secondary, which we
Super Dino Charge.
Super Dino Charge.
Which actually doesn't sound as stupid as some of the others, though.
Oh, no. Super Mega Force, I mean, yeah, well.
Well, yeah, that's two superlative titles tacked onto each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and point out really quick, we did not get a number of episodes in which this is going to be produced. Does it even say if it's on Nickel? Yeah, it's on...
Yeah, it's on Nickelodeon. It was on contracts with Nickelodeon.
Okay, so yeah. But we don't know if there's 20 episodes, 40 episodes, or what's going to go ahead and be. But just going off that, continue, please.
Well, with Dino Charger, it actually, like I said, seems more appropriate. I mean, they are called Beast Batteries, and they're called Paragon Prisms, so there definitely will be the charging aspect in it, and being able to use them to help charge the weapons. And because there was a Juden Sentai, which is Volt Sword team...
No, actually, it's Volt. It's Volt Beast.
Volt Beast.
Wait.
Well, the subtitles always said Voltsaur, so
yeah.
No, Kyoryu is dinosaur. So I'm gonna do some Japanese explanation for y'all here.
Okay.
Ju is beast. Ju or Zu. So Zu Ranger means Beast Ranger. Din is a prefix for anything electric. So Din Ki is electric train. Din Wa is telephone. So Din is electric. So Electric Beast, Squadron, Sentai, Kyoryu, Dinosaur, Jur for Ranger. So Electric Beast, Sentai, Dinosaur Ranger.
So after that Japanese lesson, I think we can all agree the title is appropriate based on what we have. However, I want to make the quick point that I was always in favor of Power Rangers Jurassic.
I mean, it seems appropriate, like, as well as Dino Charger, but Jurassic, I mean, it doesn't really have the jungle feel to it. Like, you could have easily called Dino Thunder Jurassic, but that still would have taken away from the initial Raptor Ranger, so...
Yeah, and I think Dino Charge is just a cool name.
Seriously, it's one of the coolest names to come up since...
Since Zeo.
No,
not that
In
far.
Space was cool.
Operation
Last Scout-
Overdrive was a cool title, even if
Yeah.
the series sucked.
RPM was definitely the last one, but before Operation Overdrive, I think the last one I would definitely have to say probably be Lightspeed or Time Force, one of the two.
Yeah, before Force got overused.
Yeah, Force
Well,
got so overused.
Only 4 times, but I still agree. 4 times is 4 times too many. I want to go ahead and kind of just read what we have here in the press release. I'm going to paraphrase a couple of things right here. The big thing right here is in Dino Charge, the Paragon prisms were given to a dozen dinosaurs for safekeeping by an alien. But they were lost when asteroids hit the Earth and wiped out the dinos. Now in the present, an intergalactic bounty hunter starts sniffing around Earth looking for prisms in order to harness their power and annihilate the world. So a team of Power Rangers forms to find the prisms first and fight the bounty hunter and other threats with dino-powered swords, blasters, and Zords and Megazords. Now, let's try to keep some of the speculation out of it. And I know we all want to go ahead and do that. But let's kind of look at the facts and what this can essentially mean. It seems that the point of the series, more so than Kyoryuger, is definitely going to be the Paragon Prisms. That's going to play a bigger role than we did in Kyoryuger. And we have an introduction of a bounty hunter character, which is not present in Kyoryuger. And that could mean any number of things. And Raptor, I want to kind of get your thoughts on the overall plot outline. What does this say to you, if anything?
Well, first and foremost, new team of Power Rangers. Get rid of that god-awful Super Megaforce team. Fuck to the yeah.
Okay.
I'll miss Jake, but I won't miss anyone else.
Okay, I will agree there.
I don't know. We haven't seen Orion yet. I'm kind of intrigued. I mean, I'm kind of thinking.
He could be cool, but
Yeah,
who
I mean,
knows?
he still could be a derp character, but who knows?
I'm
Absolutely.
gonna miss Guy though. But all right, so I like the idea of a bounty hunter villain. Sounds a little different, even though he wants to eventually destroy the world. I mean, it sounds like he'll be cool. And before you came back in, D-Jedi and I were doing some speculation. It sounds like a compelling character.
Yeah, let's hear a little bit of speculation. I just don't want this going too far off.
Yeah,
into we're not writers, unfortunately.
We tossed around the idea of him possibly being Death Ryuger.
Death Ryuger, which would work.
Or getting the power of Death Ryuger.
Yeah. I think, I want to kind of say this, and we'll move on to you, DJ, on this, is that the fact that we have an introduction of a bounty hunter almost signals to me that we will not have the pantheon of villains that we did with Kyoryuger, because let's be kind of honest, aesthetically they were a little weird. They were a little bit odd. Exactly. Lakiro, I think is the name. So they probably want to go with a human villain, which I applaud them for, because I always love it when they do original villains or human villains, especially if because really the villains in Kyoryuger are not getting interesting until the final episodes. That's when they're really becoming more compelling and interesting. Not to say that we won't have these villains in some form. They'll use the suits for budget reasons and who knows whatever. But this just tells me that there's probably going to be a somewhat original plot, not going too much off the Kyoryuger material, and that. Well, that's pretty much that. So, DJ, what do you think of that exactly? Does that ring true to you?
That definitely intrigues me. I mean, kind of going to your saying, going back to like Lost Galaxy and having a human villain and a human main bad guy in the situation definitely seems more of the direction this is giving, especially with the bounty hunter. As you said, all the boss monsters becoming more and more active and villainy towards the end. And as Raptor and I were discussing prior, in terms of plot, they could chop out quite a lot to catch up and make Curio Violet the female, bring her in early, and then kind of have the other two as a side.
And we'll get to the
so
dynamics of the Rangers here in a moment, but I actually am glad you brought up the Lost Galaxy connection, because that was also a Sentai which had pantheon of villains, but the way the Lost Galaxy was plotted out, we saw them little by little. We had American conceived villains in there. It was completely different.
The main villain of Gingaman was the
Captain Mutiny.
Yeah, and he was only around for a few episodes.
Yes, and what's actually interesting too is like each of those villains, like the Villamax counterpart in Gigaman, all his villains would have guns and leather motifs, which we saw throughout the series, but they were never directly connected to him. So what we may end up getting is a similar thing, like we have the Joy like villains from Canderilla, but no Canderilla counterpart, just random villains, but there's no actual connection to them. Again, much like Lost Galaxy. Mm-hmm. But actually, let us go talk about the Rangers, because that is becoming a big thing, primarily because of the lack of females, which Raptor and I talked about on podcast 14. But people just went crazy. There's no Yellow Ranger. And now, coming up on the last episode of Kyryuger, we have Violet has since become a female. Cyan has become a female now. So the question now arises, when we have the five teams and 6, because we know there's going to be a 6th Ranger, obviously.
Barky, I'm going to let you finish. But it wasn't so much there was no Yellow Ranger.
Well, absolutely. I know that's what we talked about.
Because it's just that it's one female.
Well, and I understand that.
Fest until Yayoi showed up.
And absolutely. That's what I want to kind of get into, because yes, there's no Yellow Ranger, and there are people who are freaking out about that when Kyryuger come out, and there are people already on Ranger Board speculating if they're going to have an American-made Yellow Ranger, which we're not going to get into at the moment because I don't really want to go ahead and talk about that. But the question I would have is, we have the first 6 Rangers, 5 males, 1 female. Is it likely, Raptor, I'll start with you, is it likely that Saban is going to turn one of those Rangers from male to female like they did in the first 10 years of the series?
I think they could either go 2 ways with this. They could, 1, take one of the core team and make them a female. It seems most likely that Green would have the gendered emotion.
It would be the most obvious choice, because I don't see making blue or black, given what the Sentai footage offers.
However, they also could promote Yayoi. She can go from Extra Ranger to Primary Ranger. Now, there are bonuses and cons to each approach. Let's just assume option 1 is Green, just for simplicity.
Okay.
If Green becomes a female, you have the problem of
not enough footage interacting with the Pink Ranger, for one.
That, and, well, just because they're both girls doesn't mean they have to be best friends.
True, but if we look at history...
that's a given in most Power Rangers, period.
Yeah, that's been happening, or at least there's a lot of footage of them together.
Yeah.
And you could balance that out by the out-of-suit footage. But it's more obvious that it would be a male than in the older days.
Oh, absolutely, because, one, high definition will play a part in that.
You could play her off as a tomboyish girl,
which they were originally going to do with Trini, and they did with Taylor for an extent in Wild Force. So
exactly. Let's say they promote Violet to be a regular Ranger. The problem with that is it makes the Sentai footage very difficult to work with, because not only would the fights against the foot soldiers be difficult, but the fights against the monsters would need new things.
And I think it would also depend on how many episodes they're getting, whether it's 20, 40, and how many seasons of that they're going to go ahead and do.
I want to point something out, though.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. All right, never mind. I was going to say that it wasn't mentioned that Dino Charge would launch specifically on Nickelodeon, but it will.
Yeah. Small contract, as I said.
D-Jedi, let me ask you, what do you think about the male-female ratio, and how do you think they could counter that?
The male-female ratio definitely seems off-balanced as compared to traditional Power Rangers. I mean, it's always been 3 males, 2 females, then the occasional 4th male, 6th Ranger, and
then the 7th female.
True, yeah, 7th female.
Yeah.
In this case, I think trying to make Green Ranger female would be a joke on their part. They shouldn't do it, especially like you said, the high definition. I mean, kids will be able to tell nowadays. I mean, back when we were watching it as kids, we didn't care. We just loved the action. I mean, kids still like the action, but Nowadays, that thing is actually like issues that little kids encounter because their parents are dealing with it, and it's just one of those things.
And it's not something in the early 90s that you would have even thought of until somebody told you, oh, by the way, it's based on a Japanese show, and by the way, the Yellow Ranger's a boy.
Exactly, with the internet
Then
out
when you
and
look
just
back,
news being everywhere, little kids are actually slightly educated as to what's going on in the world. They may not understand it, but they know what's good and what's bad according to their parents' judgment as well. But getting back on subject, I think what Raptor brought up about bringing Kyoryu Violet and Yoshi and bringing her more into the Ranger team could be beneficial. If they make it short like they have with all their past Ranger seasons, making it 20, 25 episodes, please extend it till 30. I mean, that'd be enough to satisfy the fans, but
yeah.
I think she'd more be a support, kind of like Cat was with the Cat Ranger and SPD. And then she did become the Cat Ranger, which is the Swan Ranger and Deca Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, she would morph more than once.
Yeah, no, it'd be a more than one morph thing. But I feel if they incorporate her in, she'd be more of a support and only come in when they needed it, or
so that way they could use more Sentai footage.
Exactly.
And I think those are both valid points. But one thing I think that they probably need to be looking at is just shoot American footage. Let's look at this. We have 10 Q Rangers, not including Q Navy or whatever he's going to be called with the 100-year whatever.
He's
we
got
have
300.
Yes. Well, we have 3 females ultimately by the end of the series. Pink, Violet, and Cyan. Those costumes have been made, and I guarantee you that they could be used in filming by the time they actually start filming and using them. And we know in the past that they've done extensive American footage on a lot of series. Look at Power Rangers in Space, look at Lost Galaxy for prime examples right there. And Lightspeed Rescue, they completely invented a Ranger and forced him in there when there was none. So why couldn't they, instead of making the Green Ranger or focusing on Sentai footage, just shoot their own footage with these new female characters and not having to rely completely on Sentai? Because I'll be honest, yes, you have to use the Sentai footage. That's part of your contract. But there's no rule saying that you can't shoot extra footage, especially if profits have been up for Saban brands, toy sales have gone up, as you told me, Raptor.
Mm-hmm.
There's money in the budget to do that, so why isn't that a valid solution?
Okay, so I'm going to take this one.
Okay.
First and foremost, use of Sentai footage makes production a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to bring in Violet as a regular Ranger, or to bring in Cyan, you would have to. The only Sentai footage you could use would be the Zords. That's the only stuff. You'd have to reshoot the fights against the foot soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
You have to reshoot the fights against the monsters.
Yes.
With Space, they only had to reshoot the fights with the foot soldiers because they used different foot soldiers, but they could still use the Mega Ranger footage for the fights with the monsters. So that's a lot of effort saved. And they could use the fights with the Megazord. That's saved. The only thing that was original was the villain, or the henchman fights.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to basically go back to what they were doing in Mighty Morphin Season 2 and 3, which was completely American footage for the fights against the monsters, then use the Sentai for the fight against the villain.
And the question is, would that really be a bad thing? And given Saban's track record, look how profitable the franchise has become since they got it back. The fact that they are in New Zealand, they are saving a quarter, or they're at a quarter of the budget that they would have normally used.
Really? It was that much?
Yeah, well, that's the numbers I'm hearing. I could be wrong on that, but I hear it's like it was a quarter of the cost to get in New Zealand. But the fact remains is that I think Saban has enough leeway, enough history to attempt this, to try this, because what's happening in Samurai, Super Samurai, Megaforce, and most likely Super Megaforce is that it's becoming a pattern, it's becoming repetitive. They need to try something new. This needs to be their in-space Lost Galaxy, I think, to show that there is still something creative there. And again, there's no reason you couldn't do this. I mean, I doubt that Saban's going to say, we don't have the money to do that. And if they do, that's an outright lie. D-Jedi, your thoughts?
Where was I? I kind of lost my train of thought for half a second.
That typically happens on the show.
Yeah. kind of going back into shooting their own footage. Well, Super Megaforce already has some American footage already, as we saw.
Yeah.
Because when they first all morph into the legendary Red Rangers, it is the Ghost here or Megaforce Red that is there instead of a Shuriken Red or Samurai Red.
Vulcan Red, Operation Overdrive, as we changes into the American footage. He's Gosei Red in
we've had production photos with things in the Ranger suits coming in. So.
Yeah.
And the Mega War had to be extensively reshot.
Exactly.
Completely.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we know they can do it, but the question is, do they want to do it? And if they are going to balance out for the female issue, and let's call that's what it is a female issue, and there's going to be some pushback from somebody, whether it be Ranger Board, us, or somewhere, about one female for an extended period of time in the series. Now, granted, they might have Yaoi's counterpart as somebody like Cam in the command center or wherever it's going to go ahead and be. But, I mean, just, DJ, do you think that they should explore the option of doing American footage for this?
I think they should. I mean, as proved with Mighty Morphins 2 and 3, it can be done. And
successfully, too.
Completely successfully. And Smashing, I think if they don't at least try and incorporate it somehow, it could flop, which is a potential for given anything. But I definitely think if they don't at least experiment with it, it could definitely halt Power Rangers.
To add to that, Power Rangers is at its biggest it's been in a long time.
Yes.
Perhaps the biggest it's been since the Zordon era.
Absolutely.
It's because Saban is, it may not be treating the actual story seriously, but everything else is treating very seriously.
The viral marketing is amazing on the show.
It's just, I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
It's on like 5 different morning shows. It was in the parade. They had all the Red Rangers, including the 2 Samurai Red Rangers, strolling through New York City to promote.
They were on Super Mega Force Rangers on an NFL game.
Yes, they were on the NFL Network for no reason, but they were there.
Yes, I mean, it's just
also, you know, D-Jedi and I were talking about this earlier today. The Power Rangers Facebook put up a picture from the Mega War, and it said, if this gets 21,000 likes by Saturday night, we will put the first episode of Super Mega Force online on Sunday.
23,000 likes later.
Yeah, their Facebook presence is perfectly executed. I mean, it gets kind of annoying when it's nothing but Megaforce and Mighty Morphin posts with the occasional something else, but otherwise it's done great.
Yeah, I mean, they're making their presence known in an age where that's become necessary to do that.
And I would almost say something about this press release, and maybe it's just me looking too much into it, something about it feels more ambitious.
It definitely feels like Saban's actually taking it seriously rather than trying to get the jump of getting the series started.
First of all, it sounds like they're trying to make it more original and more different than the Sentai than Super Megaforce and Megaforce did.
Which I definitely applaud because, you know, the thing is, like I've always said, if the Sentai did it well, why repeat it? Which is what they've been doing in Megaforce a lot.
That
and they
goes
did
back
Samurai.
and forth, though. Look at
true, but in general, and we can get into that in another discussion another time, but I want to...
You said time.
No pun intended. I want to get to our last point right here, but I just want to ask, do you guys have any other things you want to point out before we get to this last bullet point?
I would not mind at all if Yayoi got promoted.
Neither would I.
Because that's my favorite design of the suits.
The violet?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. And DJ?
I could see definitely them cutting out a bunch at the beginning, like making the 6th Gold Ranger appear earlier, and then having Yori's character as Carrier Violet come on, and just incorporating all those guys a little more early to kind of get the series moving, if they did have it short, but as we all anticipated. I mean,
I'm hoping...
I'd like to see that.
Also, to be completely honest, I will not miss the Kyoryuger villains.
Again, they got interesting towards the end.
I know, but
just
to sit through a lot of crap to get there.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's where it comes in with they're pushing Kiryu Violet forward, so they'll cut all that junk out, keep only the necessary bits, and
again, it will be interesting to find out how many episodes they do, because I would also again think this going into the 4th year that Saban has had it back, that they would try to negotiate more episodes and get a solid year as opposed to 2 years. And I have different thoughts on why that's positive and all that. But what I really want to discuss, because, let's be honest, the Dino Charge thing is not as interesting as the 5-ton elephant in the room, which is they are skipping Go Buster altogether.
Called it from the start. Just saying right now.
And before I open this up, let's just bring up a couple of facts. One, it has always been assumed that there is the no skipped Sentai option, that Saban would have to adapt every season going forward. Which, a lot of people were upset about Megaforce using Goseiger if the second season they were just going to use Super Megaforce with the Go.
Because up until that point, the Sentai Anniversary Series always lined up with the Power Rangers Anniversary Series.
Yeah, and let me go ahead and kind of finish these thoughts out right here. I mean, obviously, that has gone out the window now, and that could have interesting ramifications here in the future. And second of all, why are they skipping Go Buster? Because this could be, and I'm going to just throw these out here, and you guys can go ahead and jump on whatever you want to go ahead and talk about. Either A, the ratings for Go Buster, the toy sales, because let's be naive and not think that, hey, toys may be in here somewhere, that this could cause the problem. Or just the fact that there isn't enough Rangers, or there's no interesting story for them to tell given the footage, or any number of things. And D-Jedi, I want to go ahead and start with you here.
The point you just made about having not enough Rangers, I'm going to call that one invalid, because look at Dino Thunder. 5 Rangers right there. Go Busters, 5 Rangers. It works. It happens. You don't need a 6th Ranger. I mean, yeah, you can add it in, but whatever.
Yeah, and that's
Besides,
just...
You can make toys of their super forms. So you got 3 extra toys.
Absolutely. And I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility. Who knows? That's why I want to go ahead and discuss it. Ultimately, I want to go ahead and ask you this first question then. Why are they skipping Go Buster, you think? What is the reason for skipping Go Buster?
Well, aside from the economic and all of that mumbo money garbage that nobody really gives a rat's ass about, I think it's purely because, and I'm not going to lie, it seemed like it was definitely Sentai's haunted homage to Power Rangers, because the transformation saying
it's morphin' time.
Yes,
so
and
definitely
the robots are called Megazords.
Yeah, and it was just like it seemed too much like a Sentai trying to mimic Power Rangers,
and it's the one that gets skipped. How fucking ironic,
right?
Yes,
but it's not even just. It's just I only watched a few episodes of it myself, but I've seen enough of it to understand what's going on. And got the whole plot. It's just, it wasn't even really appealing to the general audience. I didn't like it. I mean, I watched all of Go Kiger, loved it. Go Busters, 3 episodes in, I think I waited like 10 weeks to watch the next one or something.
That's the problem I had. I was watching it every week at the start, and I was like, It
just didn't hook you like the other ones did.
Let me interrupt for a quick second here, because I did my review on the Go Buster series, and there are a number of factors that count into why Go Buster had low ratings and just did not work for the Japanese audience. Primarily, my thought was they tried a very serious tone about halfway through, and they completely changed it to a more lighthearted tone. And I think throwing that in there kind of interrupted the series. But just because that they did that in Japan and failed in Japan doesn't necessarily mean it failed in America, because look at O-Ranger, which was serious, but after the subway incident, the sarin gas bombs, they changed it to more comedic, and that series almost got Sentai canceled, but it was such a big hit in America with Zeo because of what they did with it. So should that even have a bearing on it that wasn't successful in Japan?
Okay, so I need to correct some of your misunderstandings about O-Ranger. The ratings were initially low, and that was directly attributed to the sarin gas bombings.
Yes.
However, the toy sales were so good that the cancellation was never really on the table.
Well, I thought the cancellation was on the table because Car Ranger came in, and they doubled their audience or something.
No. What happened was the ratings were low, but the toy sales picked up. And that was mostly because O-Ranger, more so than any Sentai before it, brought in the auxiliary robos. More so than anything that preceded it. Think of all the extra mechas in O-Ranger / Zeo.
Well, I mean,
look how many Megazords there are. I mean, there's just literally 5.
And so the toy sales picked up greatly. And Car Ranger was not some grand finale to save Sentai.
It was a parody of itself.
It was just a parody because they felt like doing a comedic season, probably because things were still a bit tense after O-Ranger.
And while those facts are true, because I'm not
Power
going
Ranger
to doubt you,
save anything.
but what I'm saying is that it was obviously O-Ranger, for all intents and purposes, was very unsuccessful in the ratings and as far as fans remember it. But we were able to take that as Americans and turn it into Zia, which is one of the most beloved series.
Tone.
Exactly. But to that point is, should we even worry that because Go Buster had low ratings, that means we're going to have low ratings in Power Rangers?
All right, so first of all, I don't think it's so much ratings. I think it's partly because of the merchandising, because the merchandise sales for Go Buster were not up to par. I'm not going to say they were terrible. I'm saying they were not up to par.
They were decent, but not what they had expected.
And there were several reasons for that. First of all, there wasn't a good collectible.
Which I actually liked.
Gokaiger
because
had a spectacular collectible.
Well, absolutely. Yeah.
It took a while for them to grow on me, but Kyoryuger, the base batteries are a cool collectible. The cards,
yeah, because I have all of them now.
The engine souls were a cool collectible. Go Buster had nothing like that. They tried to skate on the Ranger keys because those were still selling well, but eventually those petered out because people probably got all the ones they wanted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing I enjoy about Go Busters, they didn't have the collectible. That's why I liked it.
Also, there was one auxiliary mecha. That was the frog. Other than that, it was just Go Buster Ace, and then what was
you had the jet and the beetle, and then you had the lion that turned into a motorcycle. I mean, geez, that's awesome.
Yeah, but those were all solo ones. There weren't auxiliary ones like the legacy things in Gokaiger or the individual weapons that the...
Well, I mean, you would have to argue that Go Buster kind of got back to more traditional Sentai before the collection boom, or whatever you want to go ahead and call it, the gotta catch 'em all phase.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
which I enjoyed about that because for once I could actually calm down for a whole year and not have to rush out to buy something before it became $500 on eBay.
Well, that's because you think you have to collect everything.
That being true, but DJ, go ahead.
There is
DJ.
the collectible standard that is not present in Go Busters. I think Power Rangers trying to grasp onto the collectible aspect was a necessary strategy there for them to rake in not only the money that they need in America, but to help bring in the entire audience.
To make a phenomenon.
Exactly. They wanted, exactly, like we talked about the viral phenomenon that Power Rangers is now compared to what it was in the Zordon era. It's just allowing everybody to have their own little connection to Power Rangers in any way, shape, or form. Hot Topic selling the t-shirts and whatnot, and just so on and so forth. Now, as far as those affecting Go Busters, initially I read that the contract was they had to copy all of the Sentai series. So Go Busters was in there. But now that it's canceled, really makes me wonder what the true reasoning is. Because
yeah, I mean, now we don't know exactly if they canceled the contract, if they negotiated something.
I'm pretty sure they negotiated it because, like I said,
Bandai muscled a little bit of negotiation there.
Definitely, because like I said, I read that the contract originally stated all Sentai seasons had to be transformed.
That was actually never completely confirmed. It was a common rumor. But there was never an official statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's entirely likely that it was in place, but maybe that was recently changed. And now, there's one more thing, and D-Jedi and I have talked about this.
Okay.
Nostalgia for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, I think that was something that was played up in Dino Thunder. Because dinosaurs and Tommy.
Yeah. No, I think with Tommy returning at the end of the Legendary War as the Green Ranger, definitely hints that. Well, I mean, we've all of us follow Jason on his Facebook, or at least most of us do. Yeah. He hasn't hinted at anything yet, but as Raptor pointed out earlier, he and I were talking about what if they brought back Billy from Aquatar and had him kind of in charge of everything, as him being the new mentor and him coming in as like. Let's say, as the temporary Spirit Rangers, or even Silver Ranger.
Again,
exactly.
Yeah. Now, we actually discussed that had prior Raptor and I did, but I think the problem with that theory is simply because David Yost and the production.
But the point is, I think they're trying to appeal to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers nostalgia by using dinosaurs again. And face it, kids like dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's why Power Rangers hooked immediately.
And I think... Zoo Ranger was the one that needed to become the first Power Rangers. I don't think Jetman or Die Ranger could have done it as well as Zoo Ranger did.
Well, given the climb of the early 90s with Jurassic Park just coming out, I think
Power
that year or the
Rangers
previous year.
preceded Jurassic Park.
No, the book had actually already been out for about 4 years at that point. So
Yeah,
the book was
okay.
huge.
But
That's why it became a
then you
movie.
had other shows that were like Dino Saucers, Denver the Last Dinosaur, the Dinosaurs ABC sitcom,
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
If I remember, but if I remember anything from the early 90s, because I remember it better than you guys do, is
Yeah,
dinosaurs were everywhere.
Yeah.
Dino Riders. Anybody remember those?
Yeah.
Was that the one with the daggers? I remember the
No,
daggers.
that was the one where aliens take control of dinosaurs
Yeah,
and use them to
that-
fight in their war.
That was the one that was my favorite, personally.
I was into extreme dinosaurs,
Uh-huh.
even if it was a blatant ripoff of Street Sharks, but they were awesome.
But Street Sharks was blatant ripoff of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Now, but in any case, I understand where the nostalgia is because the problem I'm having with Megaforce, I'm 11 episodes into Megaforce, is it's banking too much on the Power Rangers nostalgia, the Mighty Morphin nostalgia. Ernie, the bumbling
No, I
principal
completely
teacher,
agree,
and
and
all
that's
that.
why it was
Yeah.
hard for me to push through all 20 episodes. Like, I
Yeah.
watched it all, like, as it was coming out and as it was available on Nick.com. And it's just, that whole...
Megaforce did not have a cool theme. Because think about it, Samurai had a cool theme for
Yes,
the kids.
Samurai are awesome.
Yeah, and let's go back further. So, RPM, that was vehicles and animals, which kind of cool.
But let's be honest, the Zords were not as interesting as the story, which
And let's look at
it's an interesting story, even though I don't
Yeah.
like it. I will concede to that.
and Decker Ranger / SPD police, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Being part, doing
They always
detective
have an
work,
interesting thing.
protecting and serving.
Yeah,
Yeah, that definitely was. I mean,
And-
taking it to the future was a little but...
yeah.
And I think that Go Busters has less of that.
Go Busters does not have a definite theme going for
It's
it.
a mishmash of animals and technology.
I mean, I kind of want to look at the suits and seem like they're, like, kind of poorly designed, but then you get to look at the mecha and the Zord, and even, like, when they're CGI,
the
they just look...
mechas look like shit.
They just look like... They look too cartoonish for a mecha, in my opinion.
They just look like piles.
I mean, not transformed as individual mecha. They look too
There is a bit of
cartoonish.
Michael Bay-ish stuff going on with it, I will admit.
no, my problem with the mechas, and this goes back, and we discussed this as far back as our best and worst Zords.
Yeah.
I do not like them. I think they look so busy, so uncoordinated.
Again, Michael Bay,
Mhm.
Transformers, basically.
Yeah, and you can pull off very detailed mechas and stuff and look great.
Yeah.
Hence, Bowkinger and Operation Overdrive.
Yes, which I would argue are the most detailed and intricate Zords ever.
Probably in the entire series, probably.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, well, let's steer the conversation this way. Raptor, are you upset that Go Busters is not being adapted, and should Saban adapt Go Busters somewhere down the line, whether it be extra Rangers coming in, or just bringing their Zords, or how do you think they should handle this?
Theory Raptor, I'll say this before Raptor gets going. Theory
Okay.
Raptor and I talked about a long time ago. New Alien Rangers was something we thought about Go Busters if they cut it, so... I remember us talking about this. This was a long time ago, a couple
Okay.
months ago, but New Alien Rangers, because that's what they did with the Cock Rangers. So.
Yeah.
And that could be entirely possible, and honestly, I would accept those as Rangers from another planet, those suits.
Except they have the same animals as on Earth, but...
Still, the suits
Yeah.
look rather alien.
Yeah.
Well, they are very much different. And of course, let's bring this connection. The only two shows that have colored visors in Power Rangers, Time Force and Go Buster.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows from the future? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh. I like where he's going with this.
And if they want some extra Rangers, and therefore extra toys, they've got 5 of them, but the thing about Kyoranger is, you have your abundance of Rangers.
10 Rangers.
11, maybe.
Exactly, so...
Okay, so...
16 may be a bit much.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a pretty freaking interesting crossover.
Yeah.
So let's also look at this, and DJ, I'm going to go ahead and bring this question to you specifically. Do you think this also might be an attempt by Saban to catch up with Sentai? Because now they're, 2-3 years behind almost from the
Yes.
Sentai footage, which is almost their own damn fault by going 2 seasons with Samurai.
Well, it's not even 2 seasons of Samurai. They completely skipped I forget what Sentai it is that they skipped after Go Under.
They didn't skip a Sentai.
They
Yeah, they
didn't skip.
did.
I thought
No,
it was.
they did.
They took a
Disney
year
did
off.
the
Disney
remix,
did the Go Under thing,
and then the year after,
Well,
Samurai premiered.
Well, they didn't do the remix. No, it was 2 years after that actually,
Because
that year
they did the year of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
2009 was RPM. 2010 was the Mighty Morphin remix. 2011 Samurai. Yes. And then they decided to go with the second season, 12. 13 we got Megaforce, and now this year we're getting Super
I understand why they went 2 years with Samurai, because they are trying to circumvent the 20 episode limit and still try to tell a full story.
Agreed. Like they definitely, it
It
was a
was
smart
a
move
valiant attempt.
considering where they stopped in the series was actually like the best choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think it's their own damn fault. I mean, they should have squished it together. They could have done it. I mean, they could have.
They should have muscled for a.
It's
longer...
Saban, for Christ's sakes. They own Power Rangers. They made Power Rangers. They know what the
Nickelodeon
hell they're doing.
That's telling them that they have to do 20 episodes. If they could muscle that, and maybe they will for Dino Charge.
I mean, because here's what's bothering me. Is that we're 3 years behind the Sentai, and as fans, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, Super Mega Force is coming in, but we've seen this stuff already. We've been exposed to it for 3 years. What is exciting about this?
I think that is a big factor. They're trying to catch up a little bit. And who knows? They may even skip another one after they do Dino Charge.
I really hope they don't skip Tokyuger, because that does look cool.
No, they always have had about a year gap between Sentai and Power Rangers to allow for production time. If they skip another one, that's just running the bill and making people work overtime and just killing people.
I think having a year gap is good, because otherwise you get problems like in Dino Thunder, when the American production team thought that the Triassic Ranger was going to be a different Ranger when it was actually just a power-up.
But also with that, you get things like Power Rangers in Space, where they thought it was space-themed, and then look how well that turned out.
Yeah, they worked with it, but...
I mean, I want to go back to not being so many years behind that I would like to. It's almost kind of like a hit the ground running thing. Like, it just came out. This is what's successful. This was not. Now let's quickly turn around and try to make our series based on the success, or change it because this didn't work out. And yes, you get 3 years to figure out what did work and did not work for Gokaiger, Go Buster, whatever. But it's almost a testament to the creative abilities of the series to take the show when it's all, like, they're in pre-production just as they're starting to wrap up with filming.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just don't like being 3 years out of date and 3 years behind, because it's kind of like, oh, we have to wait and wait and wait.
Exactly. And with that year gap, I mean, as Charge is ending and Dino Charge is going into pre-production, that gives time for exchange, like, here's what we got, et cetera, blah, 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 yada, yada. It just allows for creative thinking. And that 3 year gap is definitely a headache for us fans, because we've seen it. We don't want it to be stupid like you're already doing with Gokaiger. Sorry, Saban, but fuck you.
Yeah, I think we all can agree with that. I mean, there are a number of issues that are going to be brought up in that series.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. But anywho, back on the topic here.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I think it's definitely the wise choice to do, especially with the Mighty Morphin nostalgia and just how they're doing everything. But I'm really curious to see just how they're going to play it out and how they're going to continue with it, since they've already skipped one. And could they potentially just...
because the success or failure, essentially, of Tokyuger, which is putting a lot of pressure on Toei now that you think about it, I mean...
Pink Ranger.
Well, that too. But I'm just saying... Let's assume for the moment that Tokyuger just fails miserably in the ratings, worse than Go Buster, okay? Then does that mean that Saban's like, well, that show sucked and we don't want to bring it over to America, so we're going to do this instead? Well, because that's a dangerous precedent.
That too could be, but they could, like what they did with Samurai, they could extend it 2 seasons, but just don't make it Super Dino Chargers, make it a continuation of Dino Charger like Mighty Morphin was, but continue with the Cure.
Just the same Charger season 2. There you go.
Exactly, and just keep going with the same story. So if Tokyuger fails, it gives Sentai to create something new that for that year gap they can be like, oh hey, ours.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've kind of gone over just about all the basis, and I think we need to go ahead and start wrapping up here. But before we go ahead and do that, I just need some final thoughts from you guys, and just overall, how you feel about Dino Charge and D-Jedi. How do you feel about it, just from what we discussed today?
I feel good about it. I'm still intrigued as to the episodes and overall how they're going to incorporate everything. And slowly, as the months tick on, they will get announced, and we will get all that information soon. But I feel good about this. I feel Saban is going to make smart choices with this one, unlike what they've done in the past. I think they're not only going to try and get for the new fans, but I think this is also, they're going to try and make it a little more mature, a little more serious. Kind of like Space and Less Galaxy, because those were... And Lightspeed, too. Lightspeed was pretty mature.
Time Force.
Time Force was very mature.
The back half of the first Saban era, basically.
Yes. Basically, if they do the back half of Saban era, even just a fraction in there to get us longtime fans hooked back onto it again, I think we could potentially see another Fox Saturday morning cartoon being popular.
Yeah, and so when I found this out this morning, I was a little torqued, but... since just talking about it with you guys before and during this podcast, I've started to feel a lot better about it. I'm going to say I'm excited for it now. I'm disappointed. I'm not going to say that I'm not disappointed that Go Buster's not happening, but I'm excited to see what they do with Kyoryuger. I'm optimistic. Maybe Super Mega Force will kill that optimism, but...
Find out tomorrow.
Yeah. And I know...
And keep y'all's eyes out for a vlog.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be cynical here. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer of the group and stuff. But, of course, my biggest issue has just been story. I don't care what Sentai they're going to adapt as long as the story is good, the characters are interesting. That's just a byproduct of what I'm learning here in film school, I'm afraid. But if
the same stuff you did, but I don't have those hang-ups.
Yes, I know. But that's my only concern, because, again, they could go back and adapt Denzi Man for all I care, as long as the story is good. That's all I'm saying.
Denzi Man.
But that being said, I'm very glad you guys joined me today. I just love being able to discuss this with other Power Ranger fans, because I'm just getting tired of hearing everything Raptor says. But in any case, Raptor, thank you for joining me as always. D-Jedi, thank you for joining. I'm hoping you can come back, a few other times. We'll have definitely more things we would want to bring you in on.
Sure, I'm down to come back more.
All right. And for all you guys out there, leave your comments in the comments section. Let us know what you think of Dino Charge, and I'm very interested to see what the general opinion is on this, other than Yellow Ranger, which seems to be the big thing on Ranger Board right now.
And also, tomorrow, keep your eyes out for our first Super Mega Force vlog.
Is the first episode really tomorrow?
Yes. Did you the Facebook post?
Did you
pull it up
listen
right
to
now.
us?
We posted it.
We talked about it. Power Rangers. If this post.
Oh, wait a second. Tokuger is next week.
Yes.
It's this week. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And also, keep your eyes out for a special announcement coming soon.
Okay, and I feel really stupid right now, so that's the best way to end this podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.